Good morning everyone, welcome to an honest review of that 85mm f1.8. Is it a good lens? Should you get a 1.4? Let's dig into it. Alright guys, welcome to a new episode, and let's turn that failed sunrise shoot into an awesome review of that 85mm f1.8. As you guys know, I've had it for a little bit more than a month now, and I've been shooting intensively with it almost every day, I would say. I've been shooting in the streets, a little bit in the nature, I've been shooting photos and videos with it, and I want to share with you my findings. I promised you a review and it's finally here. What is great about that lens, what do I not like so much, and especially because you guys asked me a lot, and I even asked myself that question, should you get the version 1.8 or the version 1.4? Because you know there is a GM version in 1.4. Now before we get started, I just want to remind you what I'm shooting with. I'm shooting on the Sony a7R III, which has a very high definition, which means I see very quickly when lenses are not sharp and when something's missing. So keep that in mind whenever I'm reviewing that lens. I really tested and zoomed in just to make sure that everything looks amazing. Or not. We'll see. Let's get started. Before we get right into it, this video is brought to you by the 30-day advantage to great photos, the one and only photographer's workout that I just released season 3 right now. So I want you to join. If you want to take your photography to the next level, it is now or never. There's a link in the description. I'm waiting for you to join me on this adventure. It's awesome. You won't regret it. With that being said, first of all, the positive points, and guys, I gotta say, the size. Wow, I love that size. The lens is actually real small. The lens hood makes it kind of half the size bigger, but I can fit it in some of my pants pockets, which is an absolute delight. If you've ever shot in the streets, or if you have ever done travel photography when you're traveling, the best thing you can do is have lenses easily accessible, and having an 85mm 1.8 is a great lens to have easy access to whenever you want to grab portraits on the go of travelers or locals and anywhere you are. Having a small lens is actually way more important, in my opinion, than having the best lens, because having a small lens means that you will take it with you everywhere. It's a lens you will not forget at home and not take with you. You will always put it in your bag thinking I might use it. And yes, for me, that is essential. So while we're talking about the ergonomics, I want to mention something awesome on that lens, is that they have the function button right here that you can press on whenever you're using that lens, and you can remap it to any function that you want. For example, I'm using it for eye tracking or eye focusing, which is awesome. Whichever focus mode I'm on, if I'm on single point focus or zone focus, well, anytime I'm gonna press that button, it's gonna override that focus mode and it's gonna look for eyes in that frame. And anywhere those eyes will be, it's gonna focus. And guys, I can tell you, this is so practical whenever I'm shooting in the streets, whenever I'm trying to shoot portraits, or when I'm trying to grab subjects that are a little bit further from me, where it's actually even in spot focus mode, it might be difficult to get the eye properly. Next, what do we have? The focus ring is very smooth, so if you're doing video, I really enjoy defocusing to get some nice bokeh and then refocusing slowly. The filter thread is 67mm. Most of my lenses are 82mm and 77, which means I'm using a step down ring whenever I want to adapt bigger filters on it, which is a great way to save money. We'll talk about it in another video in details. All right, what else? Well, the focus distance, the minimum focus distance is 0.8 meter, which is, I would say, a little bit over an arm's length. Personally, for my usage, I don't think it's too far, I don't think it's too short. It kind of falls in the category where I don't even think about it. I'm not like, oh, I can't focus. No, that's not good. Nope, that worked out properly for me. Next thing I really loved about that lens is that it's actually not slow. I'm not saying it's ultra fast, because there are lenses like the 7200 GM that are going to be faster in focus. But this lens was not designed to be a sport lens, right? It is very fast. Even in video, it changes the focus smoothly. It doesn't hunt. It's really enjoyable. All right, what kind of other goodness does that lens has? Well, it has an amazing bokeh. If you've ever shot at 1.8, you know you can get something really nice, but that 85mm at 1.8, oh god, it is so beautiful. I just love it. It's buttery, smooth, delicious. So we talked about it, about what kind of effects, creative ideas you can do with long lenses. Definitely play with the bokeh. That lens is a bokeh master, I would call it. Everything gets smothery delicious. If a room is ugly, put that lens on, focus on details, the background's gonna disappear and the beautiful bokeh, and your room is gonna look like $1,000,000. Now you might be wondering, well, I mean, that lens, is it even sharp? Yes, it is very, very, very sharp. Although I would say it's more like a portrait lens, it's actually very sharp. Which means even with the 42 megapixel I have on the A7R III, I would never really have problem where I'm like, oh, the image is a little soft, I need to add a little texture after or sharpness. No, on the contrary, I'm actually in the portraits going to remove some texture and sharpness because it's a little bit too sharp. Now you might be wondering, wow, okay, it has great advantages, but what are the drawbacks of that lens? Well, obviously, the biggest drawback is that you cannot jet ski with your lens. It's not a GoPro. Just kidding, guys. The thing is that it is actually weather resistant, but I haven't tested it to the extent where I would put water on it and still try it out. So I might be a little bit cautious with it at first, simply because I know the GM versions are really weather sealed, but that one does not seem as protected as my GM lenses. So we'll see in the long term, but so far, so good. The other drawback I would say is that it's simply a very tight lens. So 85mm is not your most versatile lens, but that has more to do with the focal length than the lens itself. And I was thinking about it earlier, and I actually could not picture what was wrong with that lens, because if you think about the price we're talking about, you can check, I put the link in the description for your different countries, but it's about $600, $580, $600, and I think for that price, having such a sharp lens, 85mm, with which you can get amazing portraits, I don't really see any drawbacks. And the size is awesome. As I mentioned before, I'm a big fan. Now you may be wondering, because I have no drawback, you might be thinking, well, does it make sense to get the 85mm f1.4? Totally honestly with you, I don't think so. You know, we're talking about the lens that's around $1,500, so we're talking like 3 times the price of that one, and for 3 times the price you're gonna get less than a stop of light difference. You're gonna get from f1.8 to f1.4, it's not a massive difference, and most of the time I don't even shoot at 1.4 because it's slightly too shallow, so I'm usually around f1.8 even on 1.4 lenses. On top of that, all my friends who have the f1.4 kind of regret putting that much money into that lens when they could have had that one that would have worked really well, and they tried that one, could barely see the difference. Maybe it's tiny bit faster for the 1.4, but guys, you won't see any difference, especially, whoa, I almost dropped it, especially since the size and the weight of the 1.4 version is going to be massively bigger than that one. I think it's going to be actually a bigger drawback for you than an advantage. You won't be able to put it in your pocket anymore, and most importantly, well, you actually might not take it with you jet ski. No, I'm joking. You might not take it with you everywhere anymore because it's gonna be too big, and it's whatever is too big is too cumbersome, and we leave it at home after a while. So guys, overall, I would say this is one of the best lens I've had for the size, for the weight. This and the 24mm, thank you Alex, are literally my 2 favorite lenses right now. My prime favorite lenses. I've had 35mm, I love 35mm, but 24mm 1.4 from Sony, that's a great lens to invest in. It's so small and beautiful that I highly recommend you. And that 85mm 1.8, you're set for life. So that was my 2 cents about that lens. That's my real life experience. I'm not paid by anyone to say anything about those lenses. I bought it with my hard-earned money, and I'm super psyched to have been using it so far. If you want to look into real-world examples of when I'm shooting with that lens. There is a great challenge I did in the streets of Mexico, and I also shot the other day in the streets of Chicago with it. I highly recommend you to check it out. With that being said, guys, we're gonna go on those jets. No, I'm kidding. Everything is closed. We're just here for sunrise. We had a special shoot in mind. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna tell you more. It totally failed, but we'll try again as usual and we'll succeed at one point. All right, guys. Remember, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that SURB button, ring that notification bell, and I will see you in the next episode. See you guys. Bye.